Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Lake Pine Array School District 84. All 5 trustees are here. Our superintendent clerk is here. Also, our few other staff members. Welcome. It's September 11, 2018. If you'd please join me, stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see there are no members of the public that have signed up to speak for public comment, so we'll just go right on to information items and reports. And under administration, we have our Chief Financial and Operations Officer, Lisa Howes, who will give a presentation for us. Good evening, Lisa. Welcome.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Balls in the air.
Yes. 7.
About time.
So I have a lot to cover this evening, and I'm going to take a little bit of a different tact and give you the 10,000-foot overview, which is a bit of a change for me, where I generally prepare a much longer detailed report. If there are any more details that you or the public wants, I'm glad to entertain questions or be face-to-face or over the phone. I'm going to talk a little bit about some federal things, state things, and local things. It'll be very sort of bulleted. So on the federal side, our White House continues to move forward with efforts to claw back federal spending, the series of rescission packages. These started in May and continue. None of them have prevailed. Secondly, I just want to sort of vocalize that economists really are becoming more vocal about the chances of recession in 2020. And of course, our federal and state spending pivots on the performance of the economy. By transition to state reporting, the fiscal year end for the state, like the school district, is June 30th. And the state entered its general fund up 8.2% over the prior fiscal year, or $100 million ahead, or ahead of the 5.3% growth that was anticipated. Looking forward to the 2019 legislative session, I really think this provides a transitional year. There'll be 2 brand new co-chairs of the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee, our own Senator Keogh stepping away, as well as a brand new governor. It also marks the 5th and final year of the Teacher Career Ladder allocation module, and not only JFAC, but particularly the House and Senate Ed committees will face some really large policy decisions or revisions as the K-12 funding formula brings forth legislation. We will meet with our elected officials, Representative Dixon and Senator Keogh, on Thursday, September 27th in the afternoon at our central office. The K-12 Public Funding Formula Committee met late July and then the day after Labor Day, and both of those meetings of the 3 years of their work were really pivotal. And I could spend more than an hour here trying to share with you the outcomes of those meetings, but I'll limit it to say that there is now a draft new funding formula unveiled with some student weights assigned. The committee does fully intend to introduce legislation this session, starting in January of 2019. They have 3 other scheduled meetings, 24th of September, October 25th, and November 27th as a placeholder. It's the intent of the committee to, if they prevail in their recommendations, recommended legislation to start school districts next fiscal year reporting on enrollment, and then in fiscal year 21, 22, and 23, the fiscal year 21 being the first year of implementing the new funding formula with this 3-year hold harmless provision that's currently in discussion. I do have some pretty serious concerns as to how it would impact Lake Pend School District, and will voice those with Representative Dixon at our 27th meeting, as he is one of the 10-member committee on this committee. I'd also just comment that changing this funding formula can really be one of the biggest and most complex pieces of legislation for the state of Idaho to face in recent years. There are so many pieces of legislation. They did a preliminary count, 65 different pieces of legislation to rewrite. But again, the committee makes the recommendation to the House and Senate Ed Committee, so the membership there is really important. All agency heads are required in the state of Idaho on September 1st to present a draft budget for, in this case, it would be fiscal year 20. Our state superintendent did that. For fiscal year 20, it's a request of 6.2% increase. There weren't really any surprises, except that she's recommending in the 5th and final year of the teacher career ladder that the minimum salary, instead of being $37,000, would be $37,200, and the maximum salary, instead of being $50,000, would be $52,000. Just doing some projections. If all of the things she was recommending prevailed, that would be about a $1.2 million increase in our state allocation compared to this fiscal cycle. Then if I transition down here to Lake Pend School District and locally, first I would tell you that our external auditors, all public entities in Idaho are required to be annually externally audited, completed their field work 2 weeks ago. They'll present that audit to you on October 23rd. There will be no findings, and overall we increased our general fund balance by about 1%. Also locally, all local taxing districts, I think there are 52, are required last week to levy the property taxes they're entitled to. We're in the second of a 2-year maintenance and operation supplemental levy. We had projected in year 2 a rate of $184 per 100,000 of net taxable value. And it's about 10% less than that, significantly less, probably $166. We used a 2% year-over-year growth rate in our net taxable value, and this past year, countywide, there was an 11% growth rate, and within our district, a 10.4% growth rate. We've now reached just over the $5 billion net taxable value. We haven't we hit over $5 billion in fiscal year 2000, 2008, and it's taken a decade through some major devaluation now to reach that mark. Then we're now in our second week of school, and enrollment the first week of school is generally for our school district is a good predictor of the first 2 months of school. Under the current funding formula, the first 9 weeks of school are the most pivotal, accounting for about 75% of the funding. We saw major growth at the alternative high school, significant growth, small numbers, but significant in percentage at Clark Fork and junior, senior high and Hope, and also in our home school. The growth in LPO, Clark Fork and Hope, those are either rural schools or an alternative program, and again, under the current funding formula, they generate the most dollars per pupil. This growth, we haven't been in this level of students since 2007. And this really goes contrary to not only the Department of Labor that I've been working with in their projections for youth growth in this area, but also the computer models that are facility consultant a couple of years ago did projecting out, which showed just a really modest but steady decline. In our budgeting process now, for many years, we've had built-in contingency dollars and budget buffer dollars, for lack of a better word. This year, those dollars total $330,000, and our superintendent worked with administration last week to deploy additional resources as they were needed. And then I would also comment that there is a provision in Idaho statute specific to school districts called an emergency property tax levy. It's a levy that would not require voter approval, and it looks at the first week of ADA in the school district compared to the prior year's first week. We would have qualified for an emergency levy. As administration, we have recommended that, not only this year, but last year. On the maximum side, that would have been $767,000 this year. Last year, it was just around $200,000. Since we've been a school district, we've only levied an emergency levy once. That was in 2005, when there was really a lot of growth at Sandpoint High School, and we needed to purchase a portable. We didn't levy the maximum amount, it's based on a levy rate, but we did levy in 2005, 13 years ago, $225,000 in emergency levy. And those are my remarks.
May I add something?
Yes.
So the other part that I think is important for you guys to hear is that every year we build in, if you remember, a budget buffer, and Lisa mentioned contingency dollars. Had we not done that, and it predates my time here, it's at least 6 years, probably 8 to 10 years we've been doing that, Lisa, is that?
Right, it was actually, it's a good point. So in 2005, when we did levy emergency levy, this practice was not in place. And now it has been in place right after that, in 2006, 2007. Over 7 years, we lost almost 14% of our enrollment. And the state funding formula's protection provision was being revised. This massive loss in enrollment and modification to the funding formula sort of generated, in my mind, a need to have contingency and buffer dollars annually.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and you're to be commended for having that in place so that we can not have to go in front of, the public and say we need this emergency money. It's already been planned for, so thank you for that.
Yeah, Gary?
So, Sean, how much is our enrollment up district-wide, and how much revenue will that generate from the state general fund in the funding formula?
We are up, not counting our homeschool academy, approximately 112 students, roughly, right around there. And Lisa has estimated that if this holds true, that it would bring in an additional approximately $511,000.
So we're going to get if our numbers are accurate, we would qualify for an additional $512,000 in education funding from the general fund without having to levy an emergency property tax levy.
Exactly, yeah. So great news for us, for sure.
Yeah.
And how much of that $500,000 have you deployed in additional staff and resources to accommodate these 112 students?
And none of it. So no. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, exactly. Well, what we have been using is the budget buffer of $200,000 that we do have, plus the $130,000. So I can just tell you the answer right now because I happen to have it up here. We have deployed approximately, and this is some set-aside dollars that we're going to set aside because we know we'll have special ed issues that come up that will not be funded. So about $254,000 we've already said, boom, we're going to spend on staffing to support the enrollment increase.
Yes, Lonnie.
$254,000 budgeted spend over what, the year?
The year, yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you roughly 65, 75, 85, 155, 58, about 158,000 of it, approximately, we won't know until we actually hire the people, will be salaries that we're already going to begin paying once we hire those people. And then the rest of it is as needed as we get students that might need additional support, et cetera. Yeah.
So can I ask another question, and Lisa, I guess this is to you as well. So of the additional funding that we're gonna get, if these students stay, first of all, I won't know that until week 9, correct? That's kind of that's an important drop dead date for account.
I want to make sure that I'm following the chair's recommendation. Are you recognizing?
Yes,
I can answer.
I did,
Okay.
sure.
Right, so the first 9 weeks of school is pivotal.
Right.
Again, our enrollment holds very steady almost throughout the year at the elementary level and drops notably 50 or 60 students at the secondary level after that 9-week period.
Yeah.
So for us, this first 9 weeks is works in our favor. I'm spending a little time on it because the funding formula committee and the enrollment are suggesting very different counts, probably 5 counts over the year, stretching into the spring
Okay.
for those growing districts.
Yep.
And so that, we'll have to adjust our finances.
Okay.
Any other questions? Again, thank you. And
Thank you.
nice going on the audit too. I know
Yeah.
you go through that every year, but it's a lot of work involved. And it's nice to see that we got no
Thank you.
discrepancies. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have the superintendent data matrix.
All right.
Yes.
Lots of numbers coming your way, so I'll have you kind of follow along on this, and you guys have extras out there. So Carrie had recommended, which I was appreciative of that, rather than on the screen right in front of you, so.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yours, it's got notes on it.
Oh, is that one I have notes on? Oh, no. I thought you did have one of my many versions. I've done at least 10 of these over the past week, so. Okay, so I'll start by saying, ultimately, these are just numbers, right? The main thing that we're committed to is ensuring that we're showing growth in all areas, and that our goals that we set are realistic and they're reasonable and they're within reach. So what I want to do is go through each of these sections. I want you to know that 2017, that year, is important on page 1 because that is our baseline. That is what the state is using as a baseline when it comes to improvement and meeting annual goals, and that's what we're using as well. You can see the top section is blank. The reason for that is because we have a brand new state literacy assessment that is comparing apples to oranges basically. So this year will be baseline for us with the literacy exam, and they're tested or assessed fall, winter, and spring. And so as we get results out, I'll bring those to you. The next big long column, okay, it's important to know this, 2 things. In 10 cases, if you see all of those numbers on as far as grade level proficiency and target performance, in 10 cases we used a basic formula to arrive at the target performance number. And I'll explain what that is. I'll give an example. In 7 cases, we looked also at cohort data because the cohort data made more sense than the mathematical formula being applied. I'll show you the examples on that. So let me go to the very first one. So if you look at percent of 3rd graders meeting or exceeding state standards in English language arts, you can see in 2017, 51% of our students were at standard, were at standard, at or exceeding. So that means 49% of them were not. So the state methodology would be to they want to reduce by 1/3 the number of students not meeting standards. It's kind of confusing when you're talking the negative there. So this formula would show that we took 49% and wanted to ensure that by 2023, we would increase the percentage of students at standard by that 1/3.
16 point some percent. 60%.
Exactly. So you can see that we're moving from 51 to 67%. That's our goal, and we will hit that. So if you spread that out over 6 years from 2017, you can see we did not hit it in 2018. We're going to make up a little ground this year and be at 56%. That's why it says target performance 2019 is 56. Now, that would just be using, in 10 of those cases, we use that formula because it made sense. So if you look at, let's look at percent of 7th graders in English language arts, you can see that 2017 we're at 55%. 2018 we made a massive jump up to 61%. We exceeded our performance, our improvement goals there. You can see now we're suggesting we should jump up to 71%. Can you guess why we think that we should be able to do that? Anybody have a guess?
Based on the cohort of the year before, the 5th graders moving on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you look up to those students when they were 6th graders, 69% of them passed. So rather than we could go with a dumbed down improvement goal, but we said, no, we need to make sure we're better than that cohort previously. So basically we looked at both of those things in every one of those cells, and we arrived at a number that would be an improvement number. Let's see, I think there's one. Let me just double check here. Oh yeah, that went backwards for that reason. So if you looked at 6th graders ELA, we're looking at 58% in 17, 69% in 18, and our goal is 63%. The reason is that last cohort was at 60%. And it would be pretty unreasonable to think we can gain 10% or 11 or 12%.
Exactly.
So I just want to make sure I explained those examples. Now, if you go away and look at any of these things later and think, oh my gosh, we think you guys missed the mark, let me know if we can bring this back, but we think have pretty reasonable goals for all these, actually pretty high goals. Now on the right hand side, you can see the current state average. They do not give us a state average for 9th graders because it's not a required testing year. And you can also see in 2017, it's an NA because we did not elect to test our 9th graders on that in 2017, but moving forward, we will. So that is the ELA in math. The next is the high school graduation rate. That is actually the overall. Clark Fork and Sandpoint High School are right around 90%, but when you put in LPO as well, which we should be, including that, it drops it down a little bit. Of course it does, because it does take those students a little bit longer and they're credit deficient heading into that school. Yeah.
Geraldine?
Oh, sorry.
I have one question, and it is kind of cohort moving. 9th grade math, I'm backtracking a little.
Okay.
9th grade math, 10th grade math the next year shows a drop of 2%. Is that just?
Yeah, thank you for asking
Because-
that. Andra caught that for me as well. So the reason for that is right now, only the Sandpoint High School students take the 9th grade exam. So Clark Fork and LPO, yeah, it'll drop us.
Yeah, it will.
So that's why we were really looking at
A
previous
realistic
year's
number.
data for that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you for asking that.
That's a good answer on that.
Okay, yes, Gary?
Sean, can you explain the significance of the color codes? What-
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I forgot about that. So the color codes signify whether or not we were on track to meet our 2023 performance target. Yeah, so you can see look at 8th graders meeting or exceeding in math. Even though we showed a 2% gain, we really aren't on, we're almost on track to be getting 61% in 2023, but not quite. And the other ones, we went backwards in some areas. While we went backwards at those grades though, in many cases we went forwards within the cohort. So that's why those are marked that way.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, next page. This one gets a little more in-depth, I guess. So let's start with, these are just all considered advanced opportunities metrics, and the state classifies SAT, AP classes, dual credit courses, career technical courses. All of those are considered advanced opportunity kind of metrics. So that's why they're classified under that heading. Let's start with AP classes. So we have two very important metrics here. We have percentage of students enrolled in AP classes and percentage of students enrolled in dual credit courses. Now, as you probably could guess, there can be an inverse relationship between the two, because some students and their families are more biased towards dual credit. So you might have, if we push really hard on saying, hey, we want more kids in dual credit, they may choose to take dual credit instead of AP courses. So you could see increases in one and decreases in another. Most importantly, we want students to pick the option that is best for them. And oftentimes that, and Tom and I had this conversation today, matches up with where they think they may be going to college. Because some will accept U of I credit, some will not. Some will accept a 3 passage rate on the AP exam as credit. Some say, nope, you need at least a 4. So it just depends. So what we have here is just our current, because somebody had asked for this. 2018, the percentage of students enrolled in AP classes was 36% last school year, correct, Tom? Correct. And then we use the same methodology. If we want to decrease by 1/3 the students that aren't enrolled, we decided to utilize that same kind of idea. Tom and I talked, and this might be for another discussion, that perhaps at some point we'll want to combine those two. But for now, we're good with this. And then underneath that, we have percentage of students passing the AP test with a 3 or higher. I do want you to note that 72%, and thanks for sharing this information with me, Tom, is the highest in the last 6 years. It's very high.
Great.
If you look at the national, and they don't call it the national, they call it the global percentage passing, since it's not just the US, is 61%. The state average is 60. And you can see we hit 81%, same methodology for that.
Yeah, that's true.
The percentage of students enrolled in CTE courses, talked a lot with Alex Gray about this and others as well. Currently, to receive or earn a diploma in our school district, you have to take a CTE course. So 100% of our students do they earn a diploma. He's working on this right now, arriving at a number. Well, what does that mean for our students? How many were enrolled last year? So we'll get that. Industry certifications and concentrators, we talked about that at last spring. Those are our current numbers. Alex was hesitant, and I understand why. He wasn't sure that maybe we want this to be informational only at this point. About, is a goal reasonable at this point? Because numbers change in any given class, number of students, et cetera. But we thought, okay, let's at least have this as a marker where we could list it, and we can see, well, what is it in 2019 versus 2018, et cetera. You can see the workplace readiness exam results are, typically kids are going to pass that, but you can see the same methodology is used. Before I move on to SAT, are there any questions about those? And Carrie, do you want me to ask these guys?
Okay, backing up to the AP and dual credit metrics, okay? If a student is taking one AP class, they're in the metric. If they're taking 2 AP classes, do they count? Did they double count it, or they just counted once?
Just once.
If they're taking an AP and a dual credit class simultaneously, are they counted in both?
They're counted in both separately, though. Yeah.
Separately.
Yeah. That's correct, right, Tom? Yeah.
So you wouldn't add those.
You
Right
wouldn't
now tonight,
double
you couldn't add them together and come up with a percentage of students. But
No, but what we could do, which would be interesting, would be also do a percentage of either or.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay. We can do that.
do we have a statistic on the number of students who are taking, who are enrolled in an AP class, who take the AP test? Because I know some do not.
We can get that.
I was gonna say, is that part of the?
No, this is just, well, this is enrolled, the percentage of students passing are, of course, only those who take the test. but
Okay, yeah.
We can also get
Personally, I
that.
think that all students should be, strongly encouraged to take the test.
And they are.
They are, yeah.
There were 166 different students that are enrolled in one or more AP, and there was 354 AP exams given.
But it's,
So,
yeah.
of those 166 different students, and this was out of juniors and seniors, many of them took multiple AP
Yeah.
tests.
So how many students, took AP classes? If you count them, how many students were enrolled in AP classes? And if a student took 2 or 3 or 4 classes?
166 out of 455.
So there were 455 AP credits granted? No.
Juniors and seniors total.
Gary, let's wrap it up. One more question.
I'm confused.
Juniors and seniors added together, there was 455 juniors and seniors at Sandpoint High School. 166 of them took one or more AP tests or classes.
And then if you have more for that specifically, email or call me and I can get.
Yeah, you can get more
as
information.
deep as you
later
want,
before the
I
meeting's
can,
over.
you can get. Okay, so SAT, we talk a little bit about that. I've got 2 numbers there. I've got the mean or the average score, and I've got a percentile ranking. But I want to share that the national percentile ranking isn't necessarily the best measure for us because there are only 9 states that require all juniors to take the SAT. So the more states that require this, the national mean is going to go down, and that will influence the percentile ranking. So right now, we are overall in the 53rd percentile nationally for evidence-based reading and writing. However, that includes all of those states that are basically the kids that are really motivated to go to college, etc. Our state, including the 8 others that require it, our means are much lower, but I still wanted to reference that for you all, and we can continue to do that. The evidence-based reading and writing, you can see that it's just kind of an arbitrary number. We wanted to show growth, and we thought, okay, by 2023, how about the 60th percentile? That would put us at 560, and for math, it would put us at, if we went from the 45th to the 53rd, it would go from 508 to 530. Those numbers that you see in between, the 2019 goal would be incrementally over 5 years. We need to hit that in year 1. So we just figured, all right, let's just show some improvement, and that seems like a pretty good goal right there. You can see the state doesn't require us to set goals there. It requires us to set goals on the next couple, and that's the college readiness standard. So we have 71% of our students for evidence-based reading and writing are meeting that college readiness standard. The state average is 58%. We took our target is 80%, again, using that similar metrics that we've already talked about, our growth. Mathematics is quite a bit lower, but again, you can see 41%, our goal would be 60% by 2023, which I think we can do that. We need to hit 45% to be on track by this spring. And then you can see percentage of students meeting the benchmark standard on both SAT exams. We're at 39%, state average 32. We think we can get to 59%. So that,
Meeting the benchmark on both is what they call
Gary,
college
if
ready.
you want to speak, how about letting me recognize you?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Do you have a question? Go ahead now.
So in order to be college ready, you have to meet the benchmark on both, right?
no, they're saying their standard would be for reading and writing your college ready for reading and writing courses. If you're meeting it in, usually the kids that meet it in math are also meeting it, by the way, in evidence-based reading and writing. It's for those particular subject areas. For mathematics, if it's just for math, you could pass with a C or better if you get this level on the SAT, they're saying you can get a C or better when you go to college for mathematics. And then the both is just, of course, even better, because you're going to probably do very well in math and English kinds of classes, and writing and reading. The go-on rate, want to make sure you all know that go-on rate is, the state definition is 4-year, 2-year, or less than 2-year colleges. It's, for our district, we're at 49%. Sandpoint High School is at 56% though, the last time it was measured. And Clark Fork was at 67%. Of course, we're including LPO as well. So this is a district goal of 49%. Our target performance is 66. The state goal by 2023 is 60. Currently, the state average is at 45%. That is the last one. And with that, the other piece that we're researching right now, that I know you all were interested in and we're interested in as well, is to engage in some kind of a contract with somebody to do the post-secondary survey of students. So we're not there yet. But, yeah, sorry.
These are lofty goals. I mean, it's encouraging, it's exciting actually to see that all the schools are on board with this sort of aggressive goal setting, because it is, on every single one of these metrics, we're already above state average, which isn't what we're shooting for anyway, but that's one encouraging start. And in every area that you've set aggressive goals, and that's...
Yeah, thank you.
That's good.
I'd like to, support what Geraldine said. I think we're setting very lofty goals, and I think it's wonderful, the
Yeah.
goals that we're setting.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. I appreciate it.
Anything else, Brian? Well, any comments?
I like the goals, and I think, I look at 2023, and then in my own head, I go, okay, at 2030, we're gonna be way up there.
That's right.
We just keep going.
Don't stop.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We had such encouraging growth this year, really good growth this year overall. The cool thing is that the teachers are required to set their own goals in their own classroom. That's how the schools develop their goals. Their goals, and this is only the second year we're asking teachers to do this, their goals will be far higher.
Yes.
Their expectations, which is really cool for all our leadership team to see as well. So yeah, let's keep going. I'm glad to have lofty goals.
To kind of go back to one of our presidents with his trickle-down economics, I like this trickle-up goals.
Trickle up goals.
Because if the third graders meet their goals, it's just gonna blossom as they go through.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very
You
much.
bet.
John. We'll move on to action items. The first one we have is consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any comments, discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion is adopted. The next thing we have here is the surplus of 2 vehicles.
That was
That's
in the consent.
Oh,
That's part of the consent.
It was-
Oh, I
it's
see, that
approved.
is in there, okay.
It's just in here as a
Well,
document.
the only other one we have then, I guess, is the board meeting and policy.
Yep.
Um,
So,
This is a second reading, so we all know what the 3 items are. So. Yes.
And I did want to announce that in the packet, ISBA, since we met last, had a little revision to a procedure. And since you don't need to approve, you just need to be aware, I did include that as the last policies. Policy 1500P, it is titled Board Meeting Procedure. And they've just added the lines under what defines a regular meeting and special meeting, that all meeting notices and agendas must be posted on the district website. And then also there's a paragraph added called action items, and that detailed identifying your action items on your agenda. So just so you're aware of that. I corrected the changes that were discussed
under procedure 1120, taking office, that trustee Decker found. So there were no other changes since first reading.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly.
So
I'll entertain a motion to approve the revisions.
I move to adopt the revision of policies 1110, elections, 1120, taking office, and 1200, annual organization meeting.
I second that.
Oh, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the adoption of these revised policies as stated. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion is adopted. And now we have information items. Superintendent, do you have?
Yes, I do. Just really quickly, and this is a follow-up to Lisa's presentation. And let's give you guys these ones, and then would you mind giving these? Maybe they'll want to see that as well. So just really briefly, just wanted to share a little bit of a historical perspective on our enrollment numbers, because I know there's been some interest from you all in this. And what I want to share is a couple of things to highlight. One, if you look over to the far right, the Homeschool Academy numbers, we started at 2016 with 23, moved up to 55, and this year we're at 107. So it's a very quick, fast-growing population for us. There was a fear, maybe not a fear, maybe too strong of a word, but kind of a wondering if the Homeschool Academy would somehow negatively impact our enrollment in the other schools, and it just hasn't happened, which is really cool. Now, 2018 in the yellow under day 3 for total enrollment, that does not include our Homeschool Academy, nor does it in 17 or 16. So really, the number of students that we're serving district-wide is 3,839. So we don't include those students because they're part-time students, but most of them are attending 2 or 3+ days. But the way I look at it is, and what I'm very proud of our staff, all of our staff, is for, I believe in a couple things are happening. One, I do believe that we're marketing better and that the word is getting out stronger, and that our reputation continues to get better, and more people are choosing us, which is a good news. And also, if you look at that 3,839 number, to be serving that many students, and if you look at back to 2011, we've never served anywhere close to 3,800 students before, right? So that's really great that we're able to do that. I feel really pleased about that. You can see our historical numbers there at all of our schools, and you can see that Farm and Stidwell I wanted to point out because they're significantly higher than last year, and their second highest year since 2011 was 2016, but they're getting up there, and I'm glad that we were giving that administrative support. And by administrative support, I should really say staff support, and at some point they'll come and do a little presentation on what that means. But thought you might want to see these historical numbers, so I just, that's all I really have for it.
I just have one question, and since Mr. Albertson is here, the high school, it just kind of fluctuates. It just kind of goes up and down. Is it just an anticipated change there?
Well, yeah, we actually projected, at least I took out the projections there, but our projections were, I think, fairly close because we had a big senior class might go out and a smaller freshman class might come in.
Yep, exactly.
So that's how
I wondered if that was just kind of what you were anticipating.
It's close, I think, Lisa, by your numbers that you had, and Tom, too.
Yeah, it's a small senior class, and it's been small from the freshman all the way through. So we have 3 fairly large classes below, and then the senior classes, I want to say 218.
Right.
So it is small, but it's not dropped.
It's just been that way all through, so that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, that completes our agenda. See, Mr. Albertson, would you have any comments?
Couple things. We have some exciting news that I can't tell you about until tomorrow because I'm held by a national standard by the College Board. But we do have a national merit semifinalist, but I cannot name who they are nor notify their families. But we will be putting that out to the press tomorrow and surprising the student with their parents about 12:30 tomorrow. So,
Terrific.
That's
excellent. But we're held September 12th and 6th. So, yeah, so I'm kind of excited. And today just got in that the girls beat Moscow in soccer 4-0, and the boys were in Moscow and beat Moscow 2-1.
Great. I noticed your football team.
And the football team got a victory on Friday, and
Very
yeah,
nice.
so into the second week of school, and things are going well.
Very nice. Thank you. Any other comments? Do you have anything for us?
I have two just positive shout outs. One is a thank you to the elementary staff. They are busy implementing our reading curriculum, and I'm also pleased to say that with Ready Gen, there's always a learning curve to what we're learning, but thanks to Lisa's great projections and the hard work of Nikki in our central office, we were fairly close to getting books in hand. And she adjusts those in week 2 based on enrollment. So I just thank the staff for diving in and ensuring that our kids have what they need and having a real positive attitude about launching a new curriculum, and thank you for supporting that. Second is I've been privileged to be a substitute in the after-school program the last 2 evenings while Elizabeth D'Alessio attended a grant conference that was required. So I got to be a staffer in Team Farman from 2:30 till 6. And I just can't say enough about the positive team there. I know that Team Kootenai is also very strong. I'll go shout at them in a few days. But to see 80 kids engaged in learning, homework support, enrichment, small group activities, team building, and to meet those families face to face, they're absolutely thrilled. So kudos to all the staff pulling that off. And it's just been a really positive undertaking. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting parents face to face, and the comments are just out of this world. So it's my honor to be there. So thanks to all those teams as well.
Great.
I have
Yes, go ahead.
And I had mentioned this to our superintendent that the high school hosts on September 25th, All Things Senior. And the only reason I would mention that tonight is that it is not just for public education students, it's for homeschool students or out-of-school students who are working on a GED. Anybody who's interested, it's juniors and seniors if you're enrolled in school, but I would just say it's a great program hosted at the high school on the 25th that evening and open to all.
Okay, I'd just like to say I attended the back-to-school breakfast for the new teachers, and it was very nicely done. I enjoyed it very much. I appreciate the things that your organization did for us. So that was really nice. Also, afterwards, Gary and I had a chance to tour the facility right across the place for the homeschool academy. And boy, they did a great job in there. Enjoyed it very much and got a rundown on it. So anybody that hasn't seen the inside of it, just take a look. But I was very impressed with it. Yes.
I've scheduled walkthroughs with Hope Northside and Clark Work on the 21st, if anybody would like to join me. Let me know so I can let the principals know that it won't be just me.
Any other last words?
And Kelly also, in case there's 3.
You going?
There's 3 board members.
Oh, yes, okay.
You said hope.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank